Well, I'm man enough to say it. I was wrong about Scream 3. Hey, what's up, everybody? Nick here, and today we're continuing the Scream retrospective and revisited reviews of the Scream movies, and today we've landed on Scream 3. I opened this video by saying that I was wrong about Scream 3. What I mean by that is, for years I had always said that Scream 3 was easily by far and away the weakest movie in the series, and I kind of said that as it was to be taken as fact almost. Like, oh yeah, everybody agrees with that, right? Well, I never really gave this movie its due. And after watching it last night again for the first time in a while with Christian on the podcast, I was like, no, it's not. It is not the weakest movie in the series. So I'm actually really excited to dive into this movie while it's super fresh on my brain and kind of just talk to you guys about what I really like about this movie. Now, first off, I will get the negatives out of the way first because some of the negatives that I have are still there. One of the downfalls for Scream 3, and I think that this is a big reason why a lot of people don't particularly love this one. Even though they think it might be solid, they don't love this one. Aside from Gale's bangs, there's a middle portion of this movie where we focus on a lot of the Stab 3 actors and characters, and we're just not that invested in a lot of them. Now, I know a lot of people love Parker Posey in this movie, and she is funny. She's very over the top. But like Jenny McCarthy and the dude that's playing Dewey in the movie and stuff, it's just, they're kind of nothing characters that we know are just there to be killed, and I'm not really interested in any of that. So that's still a pitfall for this movie. That's definitely still something about this movie that, as opposed to Scream and Scream 2, I don't feel like the ancillary cast is as good as those two movies. Having said that, though, you still have your remaining trio, so it's not all of the movie, but there's just a good, I'd say after the opening and the introduction to Sidney, there's a meaty portion in the middle there that's just kind of like, you could take or leave a lot of it, but that's one downside. Now, another thing that a lot of people have issue with Scream 3, and is probably the most controversial of all, is the killer reveal and the reasoning behind it. I'm not going to put that in a negative for me. Having said that, though, I understand why that might be a negative for a lot of people. So I just wanted to put the three things out there that I think a lot of people tend to have an issue with. The kind of over-reliance on camp and focusing on these nothing characters, Gale's bangs, and the final act reveal and reasoning. I don't agree with all of those, but I just wanted to put those out there and say, if those are your reasons, totally respect it and I totally understand. But let me talk to you guys about what I love about Scream 3. So first off, the opening is one of the best in the franchise. I love the opening with Christine being stalked around the house by Ghostface while Ghostface is taunting Cotton Weary. And then you get this great fake out with Christine and Cotton Weary that leads to both of their deaths. It's a really effective opening sequence. And then we get reintroduced to Sidney, and we see that she kind of, sort of, is trying to put her life together and help other people. So, first 20 minutes or so of this movie, super freaking strong. Really, really like it. I'm in. I am all for it. Then we get into the middle portion. Like I said, not great, in my opinion. There's some good stuff in there. There's also some stuff in there that is just totally unnecessary and seems like meandering. But luckily, in the second half of the movie, Sidney comes back in. But yeah, so first act, super, super strong. So that is a positive for Scream 3 for me. Also, the trio. I love the trio in this movie. Now, I hate Gale's bangs. We all hate Gale's bangs. Courtney hates Gale's bangs. It has become this long-running joke, so we don't need to talk about the bangs anymore. I've said it 18 times. But the trio is really, really good in this movie. I love how Sidney is brought into this in a very organic way. It's almost like she could have stayed behind and been like, I'm not fucking with that. But she realized, and we realized as the viewer, no, you've got to come back for this. That we got to figure this out somehow. We got to get to the bottom of this. We got to stop this. It's clearly motivated by Sidney. So as they all are, right? So I really love the trio. I love the way they work off of each other. I really like Gale and Dewey in this movie a lot more than I liked him in 2. I feel like the relationship is better here. I hated the whole will they or won't they in Scream 2. Oh, Dewey's mad at her, this and that. I don't hate it, but it's just like we know as the audience, like, come on, just get your shit together and end up together. So, like, I like their relationship a lot better. Sydney's inclusion feels really organic. Great stuff. The kills in this movie. Ghostface, and Christian and I were talking about this on the podcast. How many times in a Scream movie have we talked about how when we find out who the killer is and we find out which kills they might have committed, we go, but how could they have realistically done that one? Or how could they have realistically done that one? And we have a lot of questions sometimes. In this movie, I don't feel that way. I don't have a question of how could this killer have pulled this off or that off. No, because Roman is a bigger dude, you know? He's built well, he's taller, seems very capable and very smart. So it's not just brawn, it's also brains. Roman's got both. Which goes a long way in a Scream movie because when it's all said and done, I don't want to have to look back on the movie that I just watched and go, but does that make sense? Like, could this person have realistically done this or that? So kudos to Roman and that idea there. The one killer angle is really, really cool because it's unique to this series. We've never seen it before. It's the only movie still that only had one killer. And I love that because I'm sure you, like myself, like anybody watching this movie for the first time was thinking, okay, it's going to be more than one. So who are the killers? So for it to only be one killer is really, really cool. So again, unique and different, and I really, really dug it. Also, I didn't really notice it until last night when I was watching it. Like, I've never really thought about it enough, I don't think, any of the times I watched it. But I love the setting of LA. I really love the Hollywood setting. I love the way they use downtown LA. I love the way they use, like, just the landscape. There's so many great like establishing shots and cinematography and whatnot that is provided by the environment that they're in, you know, the hills and the city. I really, really dig the setting of this movie, and I feel like it's not a setting where it's like, yeah, it's in LA, but whatever. No, they really lean into it, you know, whether it's backlots on movie studios or, like I said, the mountains and Sydney's house that she lives in the middle of nowhere. Like, I really, really love the way they use the setting here. And I dig that. I really do. Now, and as I said earlier, I was talking about Ghostface and how I love Ghostface in this movie. Ghostface, it seems personal. It really does. Like, once you get to the third act and you find out the who and the why, when you go back and watch this movie after knowing that, you're like, oh my God, like, these kills do feel personal. They really do feel motivated. Like, Ghostface, I mean, punches Jenny McCarthy in the face before he stabs her. Like, how many times do you see Ghostface just rear back and punch somebody in the face? Like, when I saw that yesterday, I was laughing, and I was like, oh my God, he just punched her in the face. Like, I don't even think I'd ever noticed that before. So, that I love that about this movie. But here is the big reason why I love this movie. And I can confidently say that now. I love this movie. This has been such a change for me. Thinking that, yeah, it's solid, but I don't love it. It's just okay. And now I'm like, no, I love this movie. It is the third act that brings this whole movie together. And this is what makes or breaks it for a lot of people. And I totally understand that. Like, if it breaks it for you, I get why. And I'm not going to try to tell you that you're wrong. For me, it brings the whole movie together for me. First of all, I love them using the same location as Halloween H2O. It's just nice as a Halloween fan to see that and be thinking about H2O while I'm watching this movie. But it's getting them all together into this house. And Ghostface basically, like, using Dewey and Gale as bait to draw Sydney in. And there's the back and forth of her having to use God, I don't even know what they're called, like the metal detector thing or whatever, to see if she has weapons. And, like, it's just a really cool setup. There's a million fake outs in here with people wearing bulletproof vests and a closet that is, it looks like it's just a mirror, but it's actually two-way glass. It's a two-way mirror, and there's somebody behind there trying to get Gale and why do I keep saying Dale? Gale and Dewey to help her out. It's just like, it's really interesting. Like, it's just really fun. It just keeps you on your toes, and I really dig that. But the reveal of Roman and the reasoning behind it, I've always loved. Always loved. I think, personally, it's my second favorite reveal in the entire series. My second favorite third act in the entire series after the original is Scream 3. And I've always felt this way. A lot of times a movie is made by how it all ties together, how it all wraps up. A movie can fall flat on its face. A great movie with a terrible ending. Scream 3, through certain portions is a great movie, through certain portions just an okay movie, but it has a great ending. And I think that's what brings it all together for me. I have no issue with the Roman reveal and the motivation behind it. I understand why some people do. A lot of people will say, well, it kind of cheapens what Billy and Stu did. And it kind of cheapens Billy just as a killer himself. I hear you, but for me, I don't think so. Because when I watched Scream, and from the first time I saw it, Billy and Stu never struck me as these just serial killer masterminds. Especially not Stu. I mean, God love him, but he's an idiot. And Billy, yeah, he's an angsty, angry little teenager, but he doesn't strike me as a psychopathic mastermind. I love that there was somebody else pulling the strings there. I love that. And I love that the motivation behind pulling the strings is that, hey, you got a life that I didn't get to have, and I should have been able to have that life because guess what? We have the same mom. So it brings the whole like killing Maureen thing full circle too, where it's like, okay, that makes a lot more sense now. That was definitely more motivated than I initially thought it was. So I love the reasoning and the reveal and all of it. And I love the final fight. There's a great moment after Sidney, is doing one of the many killing blows to Roman where they lock hands and squeeze really tight. And it's just this moment of acknowledgement of like, we're blood. I'm sorry this is happening. I'm sorry we had to do this to each other. I wish things could have been different, but I'm a psychopath that just wanted so badly what you had. And Sidney just basically being like, sorry you didn't get a normal life, but you're a fucking lunatic. It's a really good moment. Like, it really is a good moment. And it ends nicely. It ends where you could have never made a sequel and things would have been fine. And we'll get to Scream 4 in a few days on the next video. But, yeah, I dig this movie. Whether it's the original trio, whether it's Ghostface, whether it's the third act, whether it's the opening, whether it's the setting, there's so much to like about this movie. And every Scream movie in its own way is very campy and silly and over the top. But honestly, that's the charm. Like, I love that. I come to these movies for that. Like, that is Scream. That's what I want to see with my Scream movie. So I'm really, really glad to say that I can confidently say I love this movie. And I'm really glad to say that because for a long time I had just convinced myself I wasn't a big fan of it, and I just didn't really ever watch it because of that. And like, rewatching these movies leading up to Scream 6, I'm starting to realize, like, God, like, some of my opinions on some of them are so different than I thought they were. And I'm so glad that my opinion on this one is different in the opposite direction. So I'm giving Scream 3 4 out of 5. I really am. I'm giving it 4 out of 5 stars. I fucking dig this movie. And it is no longer, in my opinion, the weakest in the Scream series. But I want to hear what you guys have to say about Scream 3. What did you think when you first saw it, and where do you land with it now? Why do you love it? Why don't you love it? Anything and everything down below in the comment section right now. Leave a like on this video if you haven't already. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Thank you guys so much. We broke 3,000 subscribers. That's, to some people that's not a big deal, but it's super cool to me, and I really, really appreciate every one of you watching is one of those 3,000, and it means the world to me. So thank you so much. Yeah, that's going to do it. So this is Nick at the Lost River Drive-In, and I am pulling out.